So here's the deal. As fishermen, we carry around a lot of stuff. And if you're like me, I forget a lot of things. So I started bass fishing, and one of the things I've done was I accumulate some rods, and now that I don't fish in the summertime, but now that fishing season is upon us, I'm looking at my rods and I have no idea what type of line. I know what type of line I put on the reels, but I don't know the size. Going back in time to when I first started fishing with fly fishing, to where I label the spools of your reel. And you label the spools because that's the interchangeable part. So you can have multiple spools and different size line, but it's important to label the spools, not the reel, the spools. Did you get that? Here's the deal too, this does not have to be rocket science. You don't have to write a whole complete story on your rod setup and what you're throwing and all that. The only thing I'm concerned about at this moment in time is the line size. What type of line I have on this reel, spool. Just this is typical painter's tape, scissors, and a sharpie. Do a 1, 5, and I have a 10. I know that's what I have. You want it as small as possible. I hope you guys are even seeing some of this, but this, again, this isn't rocket science. And it's not about even writing 10 or 15. It's just something to give you an idea of like, okay, this is the type of line I have on it. But if you do want it on the spool, it's really simple. Loosen most of these, you loosen the drag, and the spool will pop off, and then you could either slip it in here, inside there, or when you do put this thing back on here, it can be a pain. Or you can just pop the drag off and you can insert your tab in there. I personally do not do that. Personally, what I do is on the rod here, the reel, the spool, I would just put the 10 on there. Just put it on the top like that. And that's just so I can, if I have a spool like in my box, I know what's on it. I just grab it and run with it. It's the same as my fly rod. The Google is what I use. You can use whatever you want. It's more of the cloud use that's going to link your, your home office, your work office, and your phone all into one. I use the Google Docs, the Google Spreadsheet, and the Google Calendar. The Google Task is great because if you have a shopping list, like if you're going to camp or a trip and you got, you can sit there at work or at home, right? Yeah, at home. And you can make out the things that you need, and then it'll sync to your phone, and then you can go and shop as needed. But the spreadsheet is really cool because you can have your rod length, your rod, the type of line, when the line was put on. You can have all this information, the lure weight on there, all this information, and it'll sync to everything, which is very cool. The Google Docs is also pretty cool. Like if you're out there and you notice different things, like what the weather's like, what you used, what the fish were doing, and that will, it's kind of like a little journal thing. And it's there's stuff I've written years ago, and I still use that. I still access it for information. But I will warn you, if you go out to the lake and you have no cell phone service, you're dead in the water, because you got to download these documents for offline use. That is important. I've made that mistake numerous times.